this is that old, that what they got there, concrete, cinder block walls. They're about that thick, solid stone.
Limestone, sandstone courthouse building. Courthouse.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm doing it. Oh, nice.
Not from the FBI or anything, right? Okay. I guess I'll stay.
No, you're fine. Did you want to see the
Stop this wall over.
Oh, no,
Okay, all right.
no, we're going for, January 1st launch date, so. For
Will we
new
launch
local
it?
news.
Yes.
For, the Platteville Post will be an online newspaper.
Oh,
There's the Mead, Monitor, the Frederick. Yeah, there's 4 different papers that we're putting out online.
Be great. Very cool.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
all right. I call to order the meeting of December 4th, 2018 at 7:07 p.m. Can I have a moment of silence for all those serving inside and outside our borders, please? All right. Will you join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have roll call, please, Mary?
Mayor Adrian Sandoval,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Clark,
Here.
Harold Leggett,
Here.
Nick Ralston,
Here.
Spencer Bradnan,
Here.
Troy Blum, Hope Morris.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Or just the
The agenda,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay. A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Audience participation. Mr. Mark?
Nobody knows me.
For the
So-
record though, can you state your name and address, please? Thank you.
I was already planning on it.
Okay.
Curtis Mark, 723 Goodrich Court. As all of you know, shortly after my dad passed away, I started a fundraising campaign to help raise the money for the senior bus. And it has gone far above and beyond what I expected. I've kept Troy up to date on it, but right now I'm expecting a check in the mail from Anadarko, and when we get that, we will have roughly $8,300 for the senior center. About 5,000 of that has come from local businesses, and around 3,300 has come from individual donations and a couple of the fundraisers. Now that does include the chili cook-off that the seniors had for their Thursday night football. So yeah, $8,300 in about, what, 9 weeks?
That's fantastic.
So, and I'm still gonna go. I've got other donations coming in as we speak.
Awesome.
So you guys are gonna have your money.
Awesome.
Put
Thank
that
you,
way.
Curtis. Thanks for all your hard work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does that 8,300 include the 500 that the school just gave?
No, no, that number is not
Included?
included, so.
Shrink the check
Right. All right. Anybody else want to stand before the board? No? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? That includes the meeting minutes for November 20th, resolution 2018-19, and engagement agreement amendment for Mr. Lincoln.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Consent agenda passed. Okay. Let us start with action items. 8A, ordinance 776. Mr. Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, after months of preparation, we you, the board, will approve the budget, and this is a series of resolutions starting with one ordinance. Annually, the town board, since Mary and I are appointed staff personnel, department positions, per our code, you appoint us and you set our compensation annually. This is what this ordinance does. The ordinance is being presented before you tonight for approval, and the numbers presented are already incorporated into the budget for adoption.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 776, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees, Town of Platteville, setting the compensation for the positions of town clerk, town treasurer, and town manager as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we need roll calls on all these ordinances, Mary, because they include budget?
I would.
Yes.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Harold Leggett,
Yes.
Nick Ralston,
Yes.
Spencer Bradnan,
Yes.
Troy Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris.
All right, moving on to resolution 2018-20, Mr. Rankin.
Annual resolution based upon the budget, summarizing the revenues and expenditures for each fund, and essentially this resolution and the one that follows will essentially adopt the budget for the calendar year 2019. Mr. David Green, the town CPA, as you can see, put in the resolution the balances, potential revenues, mainly the property and sales tax, as well as other sources. And there's some transfers typically, for Harvest Daze, fireworks, so forth. And on the second page of the resolution, you'll see the total expenditures for 2019 are estimated to be $6,317,260. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments, concerns?
I have a comment. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the town manager, the town clerk, and the other department heads for their extraordinarily hard work in preparing the budget for this year.
Second.
Right on. I don't know if that was a motion or not.
Couldn't agree
Yes,
more,
thank
Mr.
you.
Clark.
Much appreciated.
All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? Entertain a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2018-20. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville summarizing revenues and expenditures for each fund and adopting a budget for calendar year 2019. I second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Troy Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris, Harold Leggett.
Aye.
All right, moving on, resolution 2018-21, Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Mayor. Now, this one is a separate resolution to appropriate sums of money for various funds specifically in spending agencies and specific amounts set forth in the budget. Again, it has the same total expenditure estimate of $6,315,260. What I forgot to mention on the previous resolution is, as far as our assets, our revenue fund balance throughout the entire budget is to over $20,969,255. So financially, I think we're set fairly decent for a small community, but I will also increase that in the future.
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
'21.
Yes, please.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2018-21. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts of and for the purposes set forth below for 2019 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Troy Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris, Harold Leggett,
Aye.
Nick Ralston.
Aye.
All right, moving on, resolution 2018-22, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. along with the budget that's required to be adopted by December 15th of each year, also the board has to authorize the property tax from Will County. The final assessment did come in recently. There was a slight adjustment, which is slightly less than previously estimated back in August. It's very nominal. The assessed valuation is, we're looking at $37,853,000. Our mill levy is 18.385 mils, in which 1 mil goes to the Platteville Public Library per agreement with him. Yesterday, I completed the mill certification with Will County Assessor, and I sent that in by the deadline, and I print off a copy that will go into the budget when you see that this next month. So at this time, this approval of the mill levy will generate general operating expenses and capital outlay of $658,074 for the general fund and $37,853 for the public library.
Questions, comments, concerns? I'll entertain a motion. Larry or Harold, or I'm sorry, Harold or Nick?
I make a motion to accept the resolution 2018-22. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville levying general property taxes for the year 2019 vote to defray the costs of government for the Town of Platteville, Colorado, 2019.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Troy Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris, Harold Leggett,
Aye.
Nick Ralston, Spencer Bradley.
Aye.
All right, moving on, 2018-23, Ms. Lincoln.
This resolution typically is brought for the board before the first of the year, typically during the budget appropriation. For our annual town holidays, Mary's went through the calendar, and we have 11 total, 10 set with a floating holiday. 2 days for Christmas, 2 days for Thanksgiving, which was something that were approved years ago. Veterans Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Memorial Day, President's Day, New Year's Day. I was pointing out to Mary, in jest a little bit, that 4th of July falls on a Thursday this year. With work, I may have to close town hall a little bit on Friday, on July 5th, just some of the place going on. So, but this is for your approval. You may change it or amend it, add to it, delete from it, but that's your discretion. This is also set out in the town employee handbook.
You say you want to possibly close the office early on Wednesday then?
Friday, make it a 4-day week,
Oh,
because a lot of people, unfortunately, like to see their family.
Yeah.
And that was one suggestion that if the board wants to consider, I'm not pushing it hard, but I just saw that during the resolution when we brought it to my attention.
Closed early on Thursday and closed for on Friday.
Well, Thursday we're closed for 4th of July, and then Friday's a business day, which I don't anticipate a lot of business on. And,
Did you already have an idea for this floating holiday, or is that one where you guys can,
that's an employee discretion.
employee?
Yeah, because we used to have, years ago, we used to have 11 set days without the floating. And I can't remember what the conversation was, but I think it was Columbus Day or a similar holiday where they thought it'd be better for the town hall to be open, and then the employees had discretionary holiday. That's what that was, so. I'm presenting this for your consideration and approval.
Questions, comments?
I'd like to amend the motion to include the 5th of July.
I would agree. Why not?
So 12 days is it?
Yes. So I'll make the motion with the amendment included that the 5th of July will be a holiday for the employees and town hall be closed.
Is that good with your budget, Troy?
Because those are paid holidays.
It's a paid holiday, it's not in fact the overall budget.
Okay. Well, I'll make a move to approve resolution 1820.
We just need a second, if you're good with what.
Oh. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Guess we don't need a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, moving on.
Thank you, board.
Resolution 2018-24, Mr. Rankin.
If I may just brief on the holiday, typically when something like that happens, we get a lot of vacation requests or leave requests, and we have a skeleton crew on a Friday like that, so that's kind of why I brought that up. We usually don't do much business on that. So going into this resolution, we've talked about this several times. We had a presentation earlier this year from Peaks Investment Management. Troy Hunsucker was here. I've been working with his partner, Robert Caselli. And going back and forth with Ken, our town attorney, the thing with investments, before I get into the details, is they change almost daily, if not hourly. So what you have in your package is slightly different than that of this morning. So you have a copy of the new one on your desk. It's a paper handout. So these investments involve the water, sewer, perpetual care funds. So the proposal from Robert with Peaks Investment Management of about $123,000 perpetual care, section 1. Friday, Morgan Stanley Bank had the best interest rate of 3.05. As of today, CIT Bank had the best interest rate of 3% for a 2-year bond for $100,000. Again, the perpetual care fund, you can't use the funds except for the interest. So my proposal every 2 years, reinvest in the bond, take out the interest, and put that towards the cemetery operations. A lot more than we're getting now. So the water and sewer are the next things. In the water fund, I'm going to go to that one. There's two, you broke it down to get the best rates. So $245,000 from Synchrony Bank at 3.10% is now the same percent, 3.10% with the Wells Fargo, which is section 2. That's $245,000. And then section 4, or 3, which is also the water fund. Morgan Stanley Bank on Friday had a rate of 3.05, 3.05. It's the same rate, but now it's with CIT Bank. If the banks change, the rates are the same, that because those previous banks no longer are on the same rate. They are also lower rate. So there's $345,000 in the water fund. These are the system investment fees, not the operating money that we use. These are restricted monies for new infrastructure, for new pipes, for new expansion. We don't have a major project in the next 2 years in the water fund. So I'd like to invest the full amount of the system investment fees. You know, there'll be a few $100 left in call trust. And then in
Can
2
I interrupt
years.
you for a second?
Yes.
Are these all 2-year terms?
Yes.
We're talking about?
Yes. And I've never done this at this scale before, so investing just water and water, sewer. This is how he broke it up to get the best rates in the best banks. And I have talked to a few other entities. I mean, they've been signing on with quite a few municipalities. They have a pretty good reputation. Kendra reviewed all the documents and the 3 additional documents you have in your packet, and she's approved them all. She's comfortable with them. The sewer fund, initially, I was going to ask the board to invest the entire system investment fee, which was around $450,000. At the end of last week, looking at the budget, what was in operating reserves, knowing we're going to have to go after design and engineering. Hopefully we get a grant. But right now we have about $225,000 in sewer lagoon reserves to help pay for that D&E, assuming we get CDPHE grant or DOLA money. I wasn't comfortable, I didn't want to take that risk, so I decided to do $245,000, put the $205,000 initially back into the investment fees in case we need it.
Yeah.
So I reduced that. The Allied Bank at 3.04% as of Friday, section 4 is now Morgan Stanley Bank at 3%, so that slightly went down. But as of this afternoon, I sent this to Robert, and that's what he came up with. I sent to Kendra and Mary updated resolution for board consideration. In totality, this 2-year bond, and the monies are in different accounts, obviously, with slightly different rates from 3 to 3.10 or 3.10%. There's a total of $690,000. So I talked to Robert about keeping the interest separate. So he said he can easily do that once the bonds mature. He'll do it based upon the financial percentage, and then we'll put those percentages accordingly in water, sewer, perpetual care. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then the subsequent 3 documents I sent to Kendra, which the mayor and I, as town manager, are the primary signatories on the town account. So Adrian and I had to provide our driver's license and date of birth and so forth for these three additional documents to do. We're opening up an account invest these funds, what we're doing. And, Mr. Caselli is available by phone. I didn't bring his number in here with me, but I didn't know if you had any questions for him. I went over this again with him this afternoon, and I can't go over in detail what each of these documents will involve, but given Kendra said these are requirements for us to open an account and to invest the funds through Peaks Investment Management. And hopefully tomorrow, the stock market doesn't go down and the rates change and blah, 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 but hopefully that doesn't happen. What?
Today.
Yeah.
So it'll be lower in the morning.
Stock market's closed tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
That's
And so,
Yes.
one thing in the future, Robert, and I need to have a meeting with him and Kendra, is he likes counties, municipalities to adopt dollar amounts, but not the banks. Because this happens, it fluctuates. I don't know if Kendra's comfortable doing that yet. She likes to have the interest rate and the bank in the resolution, but this is our first time. I think if things change, I'll talk to Kendra in the future, maybe we can just do it as far as fund and amount, knowing that the rates, you can't guarantee them the next day. So this is something we'll learn from, obviously. But
You may have asked this question to the gentleman from Peak, so I'm gonna ask you, what do you think the difference is in the it's nominal, it's 0.05%, but we're putting 100,000 in from the perpetual care at 3%, and the same 100,000 in for the water fund and getting the 3.05. That's the same year, same term.
yeah,
What do you think the difference is?
well, different bonds have different limits. That this is try to explain this. The way he explained it, different bonds have different limits, and the banks, according to what he explained to me, they have restrictions on what they're willing to bond out as far as limits and amounts. I don't know if that makes sense. Larry probably has more knowledge than I do, but he also likes to diversify the different bonds and different banks, just because. Does that make any sense, Larry, to you?
It does. Different banks have, a lot of different factors. The management, their own policy towards the customers. Some are willing to take a bigger piece for themselves than others. Really, where they get paid is when they purchase the securities. Well, give the example from the U.S. Treasury. They get a discount off the face value of the bond at the time of purchase. And that's where the profit lies for the bank. Otherwise, they're just middlemen. They're basically accountants at that point. They're receiving the interest from the government when it comes due and putting it into the customer's accounts.
So it could be a potential then, we're giving a 345 total from the water fund, so they're able to raise the rate return that they give us slightly because of that.
That could be definitely a factor, based on the size of the account.
That's all I want to know.
But
This looks good though.
diversification is always a good idea in the investment business.
Oh, certainly.
Rather than putting all your eggs in one basket. And the difference of 0.5% of 1%. Well, I mean, it depends how much of a bean counter you choose to be.
Yeah.
But it's certainly more than what we have been getting. And that's what I've advocated for all along, was just to get the best return possible given the constraints of the state statutes as to what the town can invest in. And these have all passed the test with their lawyer, with Kendra.
Right.
So that they match up with the statute. And other than that, I mean, as Troy said, the rates fluctuate hourly, by the minute actually, anymore, with the computers and the internet and so on. So if you watch bank rates during the day, they're never the same compared to one. I mean, they don't move a lot, but they still fluctuate from minute to minute, actually. same with the price of a heavily traded stock. Doesn't stay the same for any length of time. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and I couldn't tell you what all of them are, to be honest, but the fact that they're all in the same realm, half a percent, or not even a half a percent, it's 0.05% difference from one account to the other. You could get a headache trying to chase the difference, or watch it go down in the meanwhile. And they might not even be these rates tomorrow when the funds are actually, someone will get to move the funds. I mean, there's no guarantee that what the market is, if it closes today, is gonna be the same tomorrow morning. It'll be in the ballpark.
Tomorrow is the National Day of Remembrance for George Bush, I believe, so.
The stock market's gonna be
The
closed?
post office is, I'm not sure about the stock market.
No, the market is closed tomorrow.
It is.
Yep.
Probably not. What am I gonna do in the morning?
Sleep
Watch
in.
TV? Watch Fox News. I don't think so.
All right.
If I may, the three additional documents, two separate motions here, and I just briefly want to go over what Robert sent me from Peaks Investment Management. Entity data sheet is required to do a couple open account, and you have your brokerage account application, followed by your basic corporate and unincorporated organization resolution. Obviously, we have our own resolutions, which we're asking you to approve first, because that's more specific to our funding that we're going to invest in. And then that'll be the first action request, motion request, and then follow that up with the second one to approve the brokerage account registration document. So,
Any questions on the items? All right, I entertain a motion now. These are two separate motions, please.
I move approve of resolution 2018-24, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving investments of public funds.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Holt Morris, Harold Leggett,
Aye.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Fred Blum.
All right, and then a motion for the second part, please.
I make a motion to approve the brokerage account registration and authorization documents as presented and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Harold Leggett.
Aye.
Oh.
Bless you. Bless you.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Fred Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris.
Okay, moving on to H, purchase and sale agreement for 10 Goodrich Avenue. Mr. Rankin?
thank you very much. As you recall, several months ago, we took bids on 14 Goodrich Avenue, what we call our old shop, cold storage, before it worked. The highest bidder at that time did not secure financing. We rescinded the board rescinded the bid and opened it up for sale by owner. And I indicated in my staff report tonight that I filled over a dozen calls about it. People came in town hall talking about it. I showed it a handful of times on site. And one of those individuals was Mr. Charles Gray, who lives here in Platteville. He's the only one to date that has made a formal written offer with a dollar amount. It's close. It's $130,000. We're asking $140,000. I had a lot of conversations if that was really worth the $140,000 because it's non-conforming use structures. The west wall can't be expanded. It doesn't meet setbacks. The water sewer lines haven't been tested for at least 15 years. I've been here, if not longer. I know it's been longer than that. But it does come with the share of water dedicated to that property and also have the water sewer taps are paid. So if you look at that part, that alone is a value of about $50,000 when you get all those costs together. So it's again when we try to get the most out of what we try to sell, but I think this is as close as we would probably get. We may hold on and get an offer. I am comfortable with $130,000. I think Mr. Gray will take over the ownership of the property and use it for appropriate use, and we talked about if he wanted to maybe put a small business in or something that doesn't meet zoning, he would just have to go through the zoning change process with planning commission. He understands that. But at this point, that's my recommendation to the board is to accept his offer and move forward with this and get this property sold. The other two properties formally sold this last week. Mary had the contract signed with those two bidders in the initial time bid amount.
Troy, did Mr. Gray present a pre-qualification letter?
He has not. We talked about it, but he has not done that yet. We would give him 30 days to close on the property. So the other two properties, there was no pre-call. They just came in and wrote checks. I'm not sure what his intent is, but he indicated to me that funding was something that he could secure pretty quickly. But I didn't ask him any details of that at this time. He has a partner, I think, that is joining him on this venture.
The property couldn't be expanded upon at all, or just to the west?
The building at all.
And
It
that
was-
change?
You renovate the inside, just not the
You can
outside.
renovate and fix it up. You just can't expand to the actual structure.
The footprint has to stay the same unless you're gonna erase it all.
There was one gentleman that thought they could maybe move it over 5 foot to be set back, but that would be a pretty tough undertaking. Several gentlemen that talked to me thought they'd just scrape it, maybe build duplexes, because it's multi-family zoning, as an investment property. But nobody's come forward with it except Mr. Gray to make an offer.
And the closing's when? Like final?
Well, I would contact him tomorrow and ask him when he can secure financing. We give him up to 30 days. Like I do together, and as soon as he says we're good to go and the financing secure, we'll just set a date and Mary and I'll close with him. But I only give 30 days.
I agree with you. I think this is a good number. We've had it on the market for enough time.
I make the motion to approve the purchase and sale agreement for Woodridge Avenue with Mr. Gray, subject to the terms explained by the term end of 30 days.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Amended law enforcement service agreement, Mr. Lincoln?
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. Trudy Peterson, the current administrator for Gilchrist, we started talking a couple months ago. She approached me about tweaking some of the language. Nothing substantial. Little things such as giving police department giving notices for code enforcement, summonses for court. We took out basically the annual 30-day clause we had to meet to see if we wanted to keep people. I said, why don't we just make it an annual renewal? So we changed it. It's just an annual renewal unless somebody says within the 60-day time frame that we can't do this anymore. So we cleaned that up. And then on the financial part, there used to be, originally when we did this, Will County offered a contract rate for law enforcement services, and we used that as our base for what we would charge. And Gilchrist Will County no longer provides that for the most part, only on emergency services, emergency situations for communities. So I looked at our budget, and when we started this years ago, I talked to a commander that oversaw the contract service program, what I call the program for Will County. And he gave me a pretty basic formula on what he did, is take his full operations with capital costs of operating vehicles and salaries and divided by his staff, so on and so forth. I did the same thing, and I came up with a little bit higher rate, which Ms. Peterson agreed to. So this is actually more money than we were previously receiving, about 10,000 more. So I'm not going to argue about that. But she was comfortable with it. She wants to be fair to Platteville. So we typically bill them a month in advance for services to be rendered. And I told them not to send the invoice out. When I spoke with Trudy earlier this week, actually in the last week, they have a meeting tonight, but this was on the agenda, but they're going to have a meeting next Tuesday. and they will look at adopting this next week. So if you approve this tonight, it's still contingent on Gilchrist approving their end of the deal too, so. Otherwise, nothing major of substance. A couple years ago, we tweaked, it didn't have a section where officers attend the municipal court days. We did that previously. But as I indicated, nothing of substantial change other than higher contract amount rates that they agreed to. She proposed that actually, not me. So that's all I have on that.
Make a motion to approve the amended law enforcement services agreement as presented and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The letter of engagement, Clifton Larson Allen LLP financial audit, Mr. Rankin.
Yes, ma'am. Annual engagement agreement, we typically do either November, December. Our audit with Clifton Larson Allen is scheduled for the first week of April 2019. We try to get it in March again, but between all the schedule conflicts, the first week is the primary week, and the second week is used for follow-up. They're pretty much on-site the first week, and then off-site requesting additional documentation the second week. Being that they're doing it in April, I presume they'll probably give a presentation to the board on the audit in June, maybe early July, but we have to have this to the state by the end of July, so that's why we try to bump up a little bit. They did increase their fees slightly. It was $20,000 change. I didn't write down the exact amount. This past year is around $21,170. I made a slight adjustment in the budget before it was adopted tonight to adjust to that. And then there's an additional $2,500 fee for the financial reporting for post-employment benefit other than pensions. So that's a whole other matter I'm not going to try to explain. That's more for the auditor to explain. But years ago, or a couple years ago, we had shown the books with our pensions. We paid everybody out with that group, thanks to Perry. Really, no changes overall. Kendra looked at this. She did tweak some of the language because in indemnification, some of the other contractual language that really doesn't impact the actual audit. It's more of a legal matter. She changes that every year. She had to change again this year, and I told Eric Miller with Clifton Larson Allen to keep this agreement on file because I don't want to pay her for a couple hours at a time for her to change it again every year when they're okay with this agreement. So I think he just forgot it. Otherwise, I enjoy working with Clifton Larson Allen. So Mr. Green, Mary and I was talking earlier about transitioning from Cassell to Assist software management. I reached out to Eric Miller on Clifton Larson Allen to give me a heads up we're doing that. He gave some suggestions on how that works because our audit is solely based on that software system. That's where all our numbers are kept. We're going to keep going with Cassell for the first quarter and a half or so of the year until that transition is done by module. Mary can explain this better than I can. But once everything's uploaded and fully operational, basically running off two systems at once, which Mary knows the ladies will have a great time doing that because when somebody pays for utility, if I go through my utility bill, you have to those systems. Because you have to have all the data exactly the same. Even David Green didn't foresee an issue with the audit. He thought that would be fine as long as we still have that. We have everything documented, we should be fine. So, but otherwise, that's kind of a side note to this agreement that we have something else going on that is going to impact, not impact, but we want to make sure the audit is a smooth transition for the year. We will stay on Cassell, so when they do their audit in 2019, they'll be working on Cassell. We won't have the Assist transition completely done by then, by the first week of August or April, and I don't want to take that chance. I think we'll go live with Assist after the financial audit, just to be sure.
But we'll be fully converted by the end of 2019.
Oh, yeah, by midsummer.
So the following audit will all be from Assist.
Okay. And you're just overlapping for a few months.
So in essence, the first 4 or 5 months, it'll be the information will be in both systems, and then after that final transition will just be the Assist. The Assist will have everything. But that's all I have on this, and then for, once the mayor signs, I'll send it, or I'll send it to Cliff Martin out tomorrow.
Questions, concerns, comments? All right, I entertain a motion. Nick?
Make a motion to approve a letter of engagement with Clifton Martin Allen LLP as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Nick Ralston.
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan.
Aye.
Troy Blum. Larry Clark.
Aye.
Hope Morris. Harold Leggett.
Aye.
All right, letter of intent to participate, Will County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. This is kind of new part to everybody on the board. I don't know if you remember this from years ago. Bonnie Dunst was the mayor last time. Every 5 years, all municipalities, all roughly 24 of us, we participate in partnership with Will County Office of Emergency Management. I call it the Emergency Comprehensive Plan. We all get together at the Office of Emergency Management room up at the admin building with Roy Rudisill and his staff, and we plug in information about what we anticipate. And I talked to David and Carl about what fears they may have as far as natural disasters, emergencies, flooding, tornadoes, hailstorms, windstorms, so on and so forth. So every community identifies those. The key to all this is a FEMA program. And this participation letter is required now because Will County needs to send it to FEMA by December 7th to get that grant money to help pay for work that's going to be done. The plan is actually on Will County's website. It's online. It's a very thick plan that each town has basically a one-page snapshot. It's not very comprehensive. It's not a true, full encompassing emergency management plan. But the key to this is if we participate and we're part of the program, if something happens, we're much more likely to get FEMA funding for assistance. So call it what you want, but it's important to be part of this. So I'm asking, I took the letter from 5 years ago and I updated it and I asked basically Adrian to sign it. It's the same scope, nothing's changed other than the dates of approval. We really don't have to send this to FEMA until I think February of 2021, but it's a long process. Most of the work Will County does. And then for about a week time, I know 5 years ago, Carl Harvey and I, the manager, we went up there daily to sit in the emergency management room and we went over statistics and analysis, and that's when I found out Will County is one of the first or second rated county in the country to have tornadoes.
Yep.
You wouldn't think that of Colorado, but we are. So.
Russell, one of the largest counties.
Exactly. You'd think Texas though, but no, Colorado. But they're not at magnitude though, you know.
I would think in Kansas, actually.
I don't want to be biased, because I've seen plenty growing up with kids.
But their counties are small.
Right.
True.
What sort of obligation does this put the town in? Not that I'm against it, this is very prudent. But it says here, with membership comes the obligation to complete the requirements in a timely manner. If you guys go through in the process and identify hazards or things that need to be mitigated within Platteville, is it a shared thing that will help get done, or is it has to happen in Platteville? Platteville pays for it, just like if something else was identified in Gilchrist would pay for it.
Typically, like the last time, 5 years ago, I talked about working with FEMA and updating our floodplain map, which we've done. We implemented our tornado siren system. Actually, we did that in 2008, but we want to expand that as we're doing in 2019 to add another siren. I did mention implementing an emergency phone system since 5 years ago. We did that through the Everbridge. So those are our costs. But if there's grants available through FEMA to help pay for those, i.e. the tornado sirens back in 2008. So the town had done this before. I didn't realize that. Mr. Meyer, my predecessor, had done that. When we did this had HMP plan, hazardous mitigation plan, that's identified, it ranks us higher because we've identified that as a tool that we need for emergency management. So Barb Kirkmore actually wrote that grant back in 2008, or actually we got it in 2009, when she was termed out as county commissioner. She had a 2-year term she had set out, and she was the assistant for the manager of Gilchrist. time the tornado hit ran away. So I don't know if that answers it. I mean, we don't pull our money together. We're responsible as each individual entity. But this helps us get funding when funding becomes available because it's approved through FEMA.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of intent to participate West Weld County Office of Emergency Management and various other Weld County committees in the creation of a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan as presented, and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Wonderful. Moving forward, scheduling of December 11, 2018 special meeting of the Board of Trustees. Mr. Rankin?
Thank you. I mentioned this briefly earlier tonight. Next Tuesday, December 11th, I schedule a special meeting starting at 6:30. The primary purpose, I mean, you all have your monthly financials and paid bills on consent agenda in November. Mr. Green comes in tomorrow to close out the books for November. Otherwise, no other action items. This will be a presentation by JVA Engineering and Ralph Tellis, who's doing the financial plan of the utility plan that day. Very important meeting. They'll have some numbers and discussions with you as a board to rationalize why they came up with the estimates for increasing the sewer rates, both usage and base rates, in order to offset the cost for this new mechanized plant that we have to have fully operational and in line by the end of 2022, sorry about that. So I want to do that next Tuesday. Talk to Mary, since it's a 6:30 time frame, we'll have something light on a big meal. If you get off work late, we'll have something here for you. And then nothing pressing for the 18th, so I have to cancel the December 18th meeting. I don't know of any action items at this time because the budget's been approved tonight.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the cancellation of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees previously scheduled for December 18th, 2018 at 7 o'clock. And move to approve the schedule. Oh, we have to.
Yep, that's it.
So I'll move to approve the scheduling of a special meeting of the Board of Trustees on December 11th, 2018 at 6:30 at Town Hall as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. December 11th at 6:30.
Yes, ma'am.
And, entertain a motion for the cancellation.
I'll make a motion to cancel the regular, meeting of December the 18th, 2018 of the Board of Trustees.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So now moving on to reports. We have our town attorney's report printed out.
Mr. Rankin, can you elaborate on the CEC solar agreement?
Yes.
Like just a tad, please.
Several years ago, the town was approached by CEC, Clean Energy Collective, to do a partnership to basically to go green, to offset our cost. We did the agreement, I think 3 years ago, maybe, right before the last election, I believe it was.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah. And we finalized that with them, where we could buy into the system, we reduced our monthly cost. What happened is, once we did that, they wanted to sublease it to a subcontractor. And per the agreement, that language wasn't allowed. So Kendra at the town attorney at the time notified us that you can't do this legally. You know, we have to then do a separate agreement with the subcontractor. That's the way it works in government. Well, all this time, a couple years go by, and all of a sudden, 2 months ago, I started getting bills. So I sent it to Kendra and I said, "What's going on?" She said, "I don't know." And she emailed them and said, "Cease and desist. We don't have an agreement with the subcontractor under CEC. So if you want to revisit this, we can." And then last week they sent me another bill. So this time Kendra sent a formalized letter to the corporate office saying, "Please cease and desist," and quote a state statute under Colorado that they cannot legally do this. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on what's going to happen. Either we redo the contract, or they just need to stop sending me bills, because we're not getting any discounts off our utility bill. I checked with them, we're not getting any rebates.
So this would be similar to the program like Excel offers, where you can buy part of your power can come from wind.
Typically, it's a 20-year program. And you're supposed to, by going green, your monthly, your savings will be reduced, but you get most of your savings in the later part of the 20 years in the run. Typically how it works in the footnote.
You don't actually get any infrastructure of solar,
No.
you just get shares of solar
We
power.
buy into solar power now. So, the intent was they were putting in a solar farm in Adams County, I believe, and we're gonna buy into a portion of that solar array. And that was the intent, and then it was kinda like a bait hook at the end where we finalized the agreement, then they said, oh, we're gonna just lease this out, sublease it, and that's when we said, no, our agreement's with you for the contract, that's how it has to be. And they just keep ignoring us, so. I've got some unpaid bills that is in my office, and I'm not gonna pay.
What are the bills that they're sending?
They're
The amount of,
over $3,000.
so they're just wanting us to pay for the infrastructure. It's not-
We haven't heard from him since we initially told him, no, you can't do that, and then all of a sudden he started getting bills a couple years later. So we'll brief you on it, Kendra will let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any other questions on these, some of these things are taking time with the cell tower, Zayo master license agreement.
Fire district, that's.
Yeah, I did have, she had, one of her associates in the office, we spoke last week. Cause I mentioned to Kendra, the board authorized up to 90,000, 70 for infrastructure, 20 for design. And we want to go and get the draft agreement sent to the fire district's attorney to review, and then we'll bring that to the board in January if it's ready. I know they want to, we're finalizing plan review now with the fire district. Melissa is sending comments, back to, their consultant for review. It's just a planning process, and since I'm on this subject, we'll have a board of adjustments hearing the second Tuesday of January, to hear 2 variance requests from the fire station, setback and height. And then that will go to the planning commission and followed by the board on January 15th. And it's not the variance that will go to the planning commission board, it'll be the conditional review use. Because zoning in Platteville, a fire station doesn't fit anywhere as a use of right, but it can fit anywhere as a conditional use. And that's not uncommon, that's how a lot of fire stations are.
So if we have to appoint somebody for the board of adjustments, we can do that next week.
We can, and I talked to Mary about, I know the last BOA meeting was in 2013, and since that time, Mr. Ryder passed away. He was the chair on the board of adjustments. Mr. Evans was named the chair, but I think we're still one short with one that's no longer interested. The board appoints those like they do with the planning commission.
Okay.
So we'll get on that too.
All right, any other questions on Ken's report? Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Rankin's report.
I just have 2 things other than my report. First, in January, February timeframe, I want to do a couple of study sessions with the board. The first one is some emergency management training with Roy Rudisill. He's the Director of Office of Emergency Management of Will County, and also with Barb Kirkmeyer. A couple of months ago, I attended a week-long FEMA training to do some update training for myself. This winter, I want to update our emergency management plan, which hasn't been really touched for a number of years. But during that training, I talked to Roy and Barb, because Barb's lived through a lot in Will County, floods, tornadoes, you name it, and she's been actively involved with that, so she has a lot of institutional knowledge, basically. So I asked her to attend as well as an elected official, because if something happens, the mayor has certain rights to the code and by statute that she's going to have to take action on with the board as far as resolutions, asking the governor for assistance, so on and so forth. So I wanted to set that training with the board in January, February. I contacted Roy, and he's pretty flexible. So that's one. And then last week I started talking to Kathy Schulte of upstate Colorado about another meeting with the board to talk about economic development, have her explain the purpose of our enterprise zone and what that actually encompasses for new business. And also, they have some good experience in helping communities develop an economic incentive program. And she's more than willing to help, and she said Rich Warner, the director of the state, would probably be involved as well. What I'm getting at is, it's best for both of those groups, if possible, to do it during the day, because they have an obligation at night. So what I'm asking the board is, I'd like to, maybe separately, but if we could schedule in advance, give you advance notice for your own schedules, for your work, not you, Larry, I know you don't, so. But
He's really.
I had to throw that in. But maybe an afternoon where we could start off with a 2-hour training with ICS, with emergency management with Roy, take a half-hour break, and then finish the afternoon with upstate Colorado, or vice versa. I think it'd be pretty productive afternoon, about 2 hours apiece. And I don't have anything set yet, but I was thinking probably maybe a Tuesday in early February. Give everybody a couple months to schedule with their work and stuff. I need to talk to Troy and Hope, but I think it'll work out the best that way if we can. I don't know how your schedules and how your time off is, but if we can look into that, I'd like to do it that way instead of evening, because it works out better for them as well. So,
Sounds good.
with I'm throwing out maybe the second Tuesday. I'm not sure what that date is in February. Could we look at that tonight, Mary? They both seem pretty flexible, but it is better for the day, because they do have, I know Roy and Barb often have night activities, and upstate Colorado often has some activities as well.
That's February 12th.
February 12th. If the board's comfortable with that, I can see if that works, and if there's,
That's for the emergency management.
I'd like to put them both, because they're about 2 hours apiece, so we could probably go maybe 1 to 3 with emergency management training with the board, and then maybe 3 to 5, or 3:30 to 5:30 with upstate Colorado. If that's okay. And if the 12th is out, what's the 4th Tuesday of February? 26th. Let me try for the 12th first, if that's okay with the board. Keep it on Tuesday, because that's the beginning meeting day night. And then back will be the 26th. That works for everybody. Does that work for you, Harold? You're good. I think you think that works.
Yeah, I've done that one.
You got the boss at home, you gotta go by. Spencer, you think that works for you?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, Mayor. But check with your boss, Missy, and she's
As long as it doesn't interfere with nap time.
I think my boss would say it's okay, but that's too hard in the future.
Well, I want to give ample time, that way if, if you need to put it in.
I think that's going to be past all my heavy work, so.
February, January typically slower months, summer's pretty hectic, but I like to get these 2 items going, so. The last item I have for the board, any questions from you is, I want to make you aware of a utility bill issue that I'm addressing with the front office, primarily with Charlotte and Debbie. This involves Valley Village. I met with Colette Barnes today, and her head of maintenance, I believe, what he does. This past month, we're doing a meter reading. Valley Village has a 1-inch and a 6-inch meter, so it's a combo meter. So how that works is during low usage, and 1 inch can feed the whole facility of 103 lots, and it does. And then, but when there's higher demand, it kicks into that 6-inch, so it's 1 meter. What happened is the 1 inch, annoying to us, because it's a combo meter, stopped working. And we didn't realize it because it doesn't flag until it shows 0. I mean, we don't track accounts as far as people using fluctuate. We be calling people every month, why you're more this month or less than this last month, whatever. But the 1 inch stopped working in August. The 6, we're still getting readings though. They're a little different, a little lower. But the readings, that came, the 6 inch was still working. What's happening now, the 6 inch is failing. So we met with them. Number one, we have 3 months of use that hasn't been billed appropriately. What we went back is did a 3-year average of previous years. And obviously there's much more use than 0%. So that came up to be, I don't know the exact gallons, but that came up a total of $9,460. Their average bill is about $14,000 to $18,000. So,
9,000 for a month or for the?
it's total, I mean, their higher bills are higher than that.
Okay.
But the partial readings of the 6-inch for November, I'm not even bothered with. I'm not asking for that, because it's close. We know it's not accurate, but it's close. It's the 0 readings for the 1-inch, and that's what that number is based on. So, I made an offer to them, as I've done previously, when issues come up where meters don't work, or people are, need time to pay. Just so you know, I did the math. It breaks down, I offered them a 6-month payment program, because the tenants that live there are gonna be paying this. I don't wanna overburden them. So we did a 6 month starting in January. The average, if it was equal, and Colette told me today that they have a company to read specific meters inside the facility, so not everybody's charged the same. It's based upon usage, just like we do. But the average to pay this back in 6 months would be an average of $10.30 a month per unit. So, reasonable. On top of that, the code says that any meter 1 inch or larger, as far as meter size, the property owner has to pay. I'm willing to ask the board to waive that, because that's an additional cost of $2,668, which I know is going to be passed on to the tenants. It's not theirs to blame, it's a meter issue. I'm not blaming my staff because they didn't see it. We didn't get flagged until this past meter reading. But if you added that number to the $9,460, it increased that monthly average to $13.21.
What's the status of the meter today? Has it been replaced?
Parts are ordered, it takes a while. Okay, it was ordered the parts. The meter itself, it's a common meter, it does not get replaced. You replace the gas stuff, basically, the mechanical aspects of it. We're hoping to have it replaced by January 3. We're going off average. The nice thing about it is it's dead of winter. There's no outside irrigation, so the usage is much less.
And the cost that you're asking us to waive is the replacement cost of the meter?
Just the meter.
Okay.
Just the meter. In all fairness, people have asked me to have their water away before we do. We've said no, we do a payment plan. But I think $10 a month additional for 6 months is within reason. I can't explain that to you. I can't justify everybody's situation, but.
And essentially that rule for the 6-inch meter was put in place because every other 6-inch meter in town besides Valley Village is probably an industrial application, right? Where we would expect them to pay for their own meters.
Yeah.
So I can see foregoing it in this case.
So residential meters, if they fail,
Town takes care of it.
the town take care of it.
So they're typically 5/8. Technically they're 3/4, but they're reduced to 5/8. We budget, we buy it, we replace it. That's part of our enterprise fund. Those larger meters are much more expensive. The energy part, these industrial sites, they all pay for their own meters when they go in.
So you need a motion to this effect to waive the meter?
No, I'm making an executive decision. I want to be upfront with the board that I'm willing to waive the meter fee and only assess the backwater usage.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement with that.
Because the code says I'm supposed to make them pay for the meter, and I think in all fairness, we're talking about with the assist program. I'm hoping with assist there's a different way to red flag. Instead of waiting for a 0 use to red flag this, we can find a way to where there's a 20% or a 30% change in use from one month to another that flags us, but I don't know if that's going to be able to do that or not. But there's so many counts, we have over 800 counts, you can't go through that.
You can't know everybody's usage.
You just can't do it.
I need a computer to be watching for you.
We don't have the staff to do that, no way.
No.
So, I just want to bring it up because I want to be transparent with the board. I want to make that call. I want to bounce off you. If you just place flat out, that's a bad idea, I'll take that as well. But that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. She had to call the owners. There was 2 gentlemen that were brothers that owned Valley Village. Years ago, we built a sidewalk back in 09. I was working with them because we had to get right away from them. Now the 2 brothers' daughters are in partnership, so that's who Colette had to call tomorrow, or actually this afternoon, to see if she's in agreement, or they're in agreement. I said, well, we're in a bind, but this is what we're going to do. I'm not trying to be fair, but typically we don't go beyond 6 months as far as a repayment plan. But when I saw the numbers about $10, $10.30 a month average, I was okay with that, because I was a little upset about what that could do. We're not gonna do it till after Christmas.
And how long is this repayment plan? Last 6 months, 6 months.
It's gonna be January through July.
How old are the meters there?
What's that?
How old are they?
We looked, they were last refurbished, quote unquote, back in 2012. So, David said they,
Average life expectancy of them?
David said they typically last 9 to 12 years. So, I don't know if because of the use, of the type of meter, I'm not sure.
They're tampering, I don't know if that's visible.
Well, it was refurbished, it wasn't replaced, so I don't know how old the actual meter is itself.
It's, the body doesn't really go bad.
Yes.
Is that a positive displacement meter?
Harold.
So does the
Call
city
David
just
tomorrow.
bill off of that meter for that development?
Yes. We take one reading on a monthly basis, but they, Colette, reads the internal meters, and then once we send them the overall bill, she estimates and sends out the individual bills to all the tenants.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't just flag that one account and launch it for that meter, you see? Well, you don't have anything to go
We
by,
don't.
so never mind.
What we found today is, since they have to come here to read them, we've asked Colette to give us their total gallon usage readings to see.
Mhm.
And if they can show it's lower than the average, then that's what I'm willing to charge.
That's a good idea.
If it's higher, I'll just stay with the average. So we didn't know. I know years ago, Jane Brewer was the manager, and I remember talking to her, and that she went around and read each one. Now they contract a company like to come in.
So she had read all these meters since August, and she realized that they were only getting charged for so many gallons, but they were using so many more.
You would think somebody would say, because normally on a residence, people will call us, obviously, if their bill's much higher, but they also call us if it's much lower. And, we have to look into each one of those. If there's a huge discrepancy, when Greg goes out there to read them, and he's so familiar with these water uses on these properties, he's been here for years. He'll go back and reread to make sure that the machine's working correctly, or just hand read it instead of using the machine. But it's not very often, it's more rare than not. So, but I just want to be forthright with the board, that's.
So if you were to charge the price of the meter, you said that instead of $10 a month, it would be
13, 20, yeah, about $3 higher per month. So, I'm not saying we're taking the blame. I don't know if we could have done something to prevent this or not, to catch it earlier or not. It wasn't old enough meter to be on our schedule for upgrade or replacement. I don't have the answer to that, but I'd like to absorb the meter. That's what I found doing, and then we'll just deal with the water. It doesn't impact the sewer at all. I talked to David about that. Sewer rates and fees, those are set. Because the way it works is they take their 3-month winter average, their water use, and calculate based upon the percentage. So your base rate for your sewer, all yours identical, it's the same for each month, because it's based upon a formula. And so is your water, basically, but your usage changes because it's based upon usage.
And the tenant's been notified that they've been undercharged for their water usage?
This was told to me on Friday. I met with Colette today. I wanted to talk to her first, or the manager, and we will probably distribute a flyer that I'll work with Colette on and get the little tenants know what we're gonna do. I haven't got that point yet.
Do you think we can put this off till next meeting, once you get a little more information on that? I don't know, $3 doesn't seem like much over a 6-year span, $13, but I'm kind of tossed up between, letting them, or absorbing that meter into the town's budget, and also, because it is an agreement there that they are required to pay for the meter when it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, the town code says that.
Troy's kind of already decided he wants to just give them the meter.
David may argue with that, but I will update the board as soon as I find out something. I'll put myself on next Tuesday as a brief report, not written, but just an update, and if I have information about it.
You said you hadn't, it's not going to be implemented until January. So,
I'm gonna wait till after the holidays before I assess this, yeah.
just are you okay with that?
Well, I'm willing to go on with whatever Troy sees fit. I'm a little hesitant on giving the meter as well, and I am because she reads the readers within the community, and she knew how much water they were using, and she knows how much she got charged for. And for me, that's,
She pays a subcontractor. We don't know for sure that she
No,
sat
she
down
goes
and
and
looked at
reads
the
them.
numbers. Troy said they pay a service to go around and read.
Yeah, she told me that they have some company come in on a monthly basis, read all the meters. She said there's 153 and there's two not occupied, 2 are vacant or not being used, so there's 151 right now. Still, that's pretty good rate. My logic behind that is, we don't charge, like if my meter went out, the town wouldn't charge me.
it's homes.
And
Right. We do it for residents.
unlike an industrial site or a restaurant, this is a for-profit business. But my logic, that meter cost can be passed through to the residential occupants. And I have a problem with that because I don't have to pay for my meter.
Absolutely.
Now, if I knew Valley Village out of their own pocket, out of their own proceeds would pay for that and not pass it on, I'd have a different mentality. I can't tell you that's gonna happen. I don't have any indication that that will happen. And I can't force them to do that and not pass on the cost to the tenants. So that's kind of my logic behind that.
That makes sense.
Because to me, it's more fair, it's a rare situation. That's the only situation I can think of in town where we have a commercial meter addressing a resident, other than the apartments over here.
The bottom line is $2,800.
Yeah.
Round numbers.
Yep.
For 130 residents of our town, I think that's fair.
About 2670 around the.
Actually more, it's 130 households. Way more residents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So I just want to disclose that.
Can I ask you a couple other questions?
Sure,
Some other
absolutely.
stuff? That audit that we had agreed to, the energy audit, has that happened yet?
Yeah, they were here last week. David took them around.
Okay, so it just happened.
Yeah.
So we'll see results in like January.
I'm open. I haven't really talked to him. I saw him here, and David spent most of the day with him, going to all the facilities. They started here, and they went to the sewer lagoon, they went to shop, museum, library, community center. But I don't know the time frame yet. It's been somewhere. We'll get that information back.
I'm just glad it happened. And there was some uproar on social media about the school bus parking. Do you have, I'm personally not inclined to, I'm inclined to just stay with what we discussed a few months ago on this issue. But where are you at with that?
Well, when I talked to the mayor about it, when it starts servicing, and he decided to continue the social platform, tease thrown, I get it. I did talk to a few people, and I said, you don't see the mountains from the travel. I'm sorry. Buses have been parked on residential streets in this town since I've been here 15 years. Just this time, just someone doesn't like it. I get it. I understand. But I talked to the mayor before that I'm contemplating, moving the south end a little bit further too, so Pete, the gentleman who drives the bus, can alternate back and forth where he parks, so in all fairness, and I think that's what I'll do, but it's not gonna go away. It'll still be parked there probably half the week. But the thing about it, and maybe I should say or not, but it was parked there for about a year. But the complaint was it was blocking the crosswalk. It's not a crosswalk. It's a bus stop. The same individual said, well, please move it further down. And I did. No intention to move in front of his house. It's not in front of his house, it's across the street. But now, this is how it all services. At the end of the day, it's a school bus. I want to make sure the school buses stay in town, safe for our kids. Because because I watch the news and I see this happen all over the country almost every week. I will make sure those buses are there to get them out of the.
And it's within code to not park there for 72 hours. You could have a
It's
tractor.
moved every day.
I got my tractor, I had a tractor trailer business and I wanted to come home at lunchtime. I
Yep.
could park my tractor trailer in front of my house for 6 hours.
That's what we did.
And leave.
Right.
That would be illegal. No one could say anything about it.
Well, tractor trailer specifically, if you have a trailer, you can
Yeah,
do
a large, you know, my.
Yeah,
you know,
semi truck,
My
that's
big
hell
tool
different.
truck, let's say that,
Yeah.
right?
As long
Yeah,
as it's
no
in front of
laws.
your house. Yeah.
No laws are bent for the school bus to be parked there.
No.
None of them are.
Thank you.
But I appreciate you bringing that up.
Whether you do or not, it happens, so.
Since we're talking about next door, and I'm not opposed to Platteville next door or the social website, but it is not mine nor the town's Platteville. You know, the chief on occasion will watch it, David might look at it once a week. I have it set to where if it's something kind of government related or law enforcement related, it pings me. You know, so I get some things and not others, but my staff and I will not respond on a daily basis or a weekly basis. We use it to send out information that's important to the community, but we're not going to be part of constant conversations. You pay me to do a different job. It's not for me to be on social media all day long. I'm not going to. My platform is these meetings, the Everbridge messages, our website, and our marketing.
Right.
I just want to be very clear.
Absolutely. I would encourage everyone to come to the meetings that wants to.
I know everybody has a schedule, but so do I. Well said. That's all I have. If you have any questions, otherwise next Tuesday at 6:30. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to the board. Gonna schedule this first committee meeting here in December. I've had it been pointed out by several people that December is probably a bad month to do that. I wanted to get your guys' input on that. Should we still move forward with scheduling the first one in December, or are you guys good with waiting for January? Troy Blum said, if we do it in January, it's a new year, a new thing, start out fresh at the beginning of the year. But I know there's, recitals, and so I'm asking what your guys' opinion is. Spencer?
There's no time like the present.
I agree.
I think we could slip it in there in that week, that 18th week that we were supposed to have a meeting, but if it's not possible, then
If different citizens, and that wasn't the other thing, if we schedule a study session for on the 18th in place of the regular meeting, so that we can all make sure we are on the same page before that first meeting with the public, with citizens, you guys okay with that?
So maybe we have a study session
On
on
the
the 18th, and then we do the actual committee meeting in January.
Oh, no, we do a study session on the 18th, and I would probably say either Thursday or Friday of that week, we would move forward with, so like the 21st, Friday, evening after, or Saturday, move first with the.
It's too close to Christmas at that point. So you either do it earlier in a week, or you're gonna move.
So then, the 11th, if we do the study session on the 12th,
Then go to the 18th for the committee meeting.
that'd work for me.
I'm amicable to that.
You guys okay with that? Can we schedule a study session, Mary, on the 12th, please? Just for December, can we do that, or is that enough time? Yeah.
Yeah, for a study session,
Yeah, we can.
you don't have to,
We'll have to schedule.
We
it.
can schedule it on the 11th. We just need 24-hour notice for study session.
Okay.
Or for regular board.
Well, do you wanna just add it to the meeting on the 11th?
no, that's not enough time.
Okay,
Yeah, the 11th is unpredictable. I don't know how long the meeting will last.
okay.
Depending on the turnout and the questions. Might be like Q&A that meeting.
But we can set the agenda for the 11th and then publish the 12th at the same time.
That'll work.
And you want that at here at 6:30?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So these, volunteers, 12 will work.
The 12th will work?
That's one of the meetings.
Okay. Well, then do you wanna get together, you and I?
Yeah. No, me and Larry can get together.
Okay.
I don't want to start. Be nice, Harold. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
Harold.
Tori. You slap me later.
So these volunteer members would be here to meet with
On the 18th,
the 18th.
yes.
So do we need to schedule that? Get that in the works as well for advertisement purposes?
Yeah,
Schedule?
and I'll put that up, because the intention is not to put more on staff.
Right.
So I will get that out, and I will get that going, email applications to all the people who are interested and move forward with that. And, we'll do it the 18th here, at, 6:30, well, 7.
Okay, but all of those will be public meetings.
Yes,
And will have to
absolutely.
be noticed as such in agendas and,
Okay,
Very basic agenda.
okay,
okay.
perfect.
What's the minimum for, I'm not trying to go for the minimum, I'm just asking, what is the standard for a public meeting? Is it posted on the sign up front, on the website? What do we gotta do to meet
In
that?
the closed case in the hallway, because that's the only place that we can control. We post them other places if we can. We always put it on the marquee. We used to put them in banks and the post office, and you put it up and go back to do mail the next day, and there'd be stuff written all over on our
You're supposed to
pictures
secure the
or
post.
torn up. So we moved that, and that will be on the January agenda as well. We name that official posting location every year.
I can add that to the Thursday night, every message, agent,
Yes, please.
at 7 PM on the 12th.
Yes, please.
And then the committee meeting will be 7 PM on the 18th.
Yes. Yep. Study session on the 12th at 7.
Okay.
And, the committee public meeting at 7 on the 18th.
So we would just need staff to work with us on the market.
Yep, I mean,
I just canceled.
on cancel it, sir.
The regular meeting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just have it on both nights.
yes, please.
And that will just be a basic overview of what, we're gonna obviously have our basic overview on the 12th and then on the 18th.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page, and then we'll have everybody who's interested in joining a committee, everybody else present all at once on the 18th, go over what we're looking for, how you can be involved, and then we'll split everyone up, in the different groups. So, and move forward with that, and then you guys who are overseeing the groups can talk to the citizens involved and find out the best time and day for the next meeting. And where do you wanna meet, and those sort of things. So you guys can do the formal stuff, so it's not super formal for citizens, so it's not intimidating.
So, just to be clear on the terminology, on the 18th, that's a community committee meeting, or how do you term that?
Yeah,
Because there's various committees.
yep,
Right.
it is gonna be all of them. So yeah, community involvement.
Initial committee involvement meeting, something like that, right?
Yeah, community involvement committees.
Okay, we'll get that going.
How many of these do you have in mind?
There's 5.
And they would be,
The first one, there is public safety, there's youth, there's business, finance, and parks, open space and recreation. Parks, trails, and open space.
Give me pop quiz.
No?
I have lots of questions, but I'm gonna hold off until the 12th.
so when I send that out, do we identify those 5 categories?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. And anybody interested, it is on the website. Mary's added it to the website. You can click on the banner that runs across, and you can fill out an application and submit it online. Right, you can submit it online. No, just print it and fill it out. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
And
So if I may on this, well, what is the primary objective of this study session?
I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with this.
So basically committee structure and organization.
Yes,
Okay.
that'd be perfect.
And on the 18th, are we going to allow, have to allow anyone to attend that wants to, regardless if they've signed up or not?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe they wanna come and listen before they decide they're really gonna sign up. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I've also said that people who don't live within town limits can be part of it, because there's a lot of people who don't live in town, but they identify as Platteville. Platteville's their home. You know, there's farmers on the outside that are very involved. And
It's kind of like our two civic organizations,
Yep.
the Lions and the Rotary.
Mhm. Yeah.
Who are they?
So,
Okay, well, Mary, I'll work that with you and we'll get that out.
wonderful, thank you so much. All right, anything else before the board? All right, it is 8:31 and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, have a good night.